What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Overreaction Monday here on Off the Ball Network. We got a superstar lineup today. I thought I was just about to be a guest and didn't think I was going to have to host the show. So now the pressure is on Mo to make sure this show goes smoothly. But luckily, I host my own podcast, and so I'm kind of used to having to deal with this. But we got a superstar lineup. We got Thad in the building. We got Jelani in the building, and we got Jeff in the building. It's been a long time since all four of us have been in the same building together to be able to discuss football. I think this Overreaction Monday is going to be a lot of fun. I think all our teams are balling. I know, okay, Thad, you also that's fine. But still, like a lot of our teams going into the season was on the up and up. We had a lot of high expectations. Maybe not the Falcons as far as high expectations, but they're sitting here 2-0. So we'll discuss all that. Jeff, how you doing, bro?
Really good, really good. Up and down week. The Cubs are trying my patience, but overall good. I couldn't be happier with the Dolphins. The way they've started, the way they took care of any win in Foxborough, is good for the heart. So far so good.
Yeah, 100%. You got to feel great about being 2-0. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. If your team is 2-0, you can criticize them all you want. They're sitting here 2-0, and this is the NFL, not college football. Rankings don't matter. Jelani, speaking of 2-0.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the Falcons are 2-0. How you doing, bro?
Yeah, I'm feeling lovely. 2-0 for the first time since I forgot when it was, but it's been over 5 years for sure. Pulled out a gut-wrenching one yesterday. Like I said, I think I tweeted it out. It's just good to be on the other side of one of these because we're never the team that comes back from 12. We're always the one giving up those leads. So yeah, it's a good day, I guess, to be a dirty bird. I think that's our hashtag this year. So I'm feeling good.
Yeah, Atlanta looks good. I think we still got some questions at quarterback, but at the end of the day, I think they got a lot of pieces on offense and defense. So you can't be mad at sitting 2-0. I'd rather be 2-0 questioning my quarterback to be 0-2 and wondering why I paid my quarterback so much money, which we'll probably talk about here soon. Dad, I know it wasn't as great for you, but the Jaguars are still a playoff team. I still expect them to win the division. I don't think it's all down. But how you doing, bro?
I'm doing all right. I think the game was worse because I was there and I was baking in the sun. Like I'm 3 shades darker than I was last week, and it was bad. Like as bad as it looked on TV, it was that bad. It was just a stinker overall, and I was just surprised that the offense let us down. But besides that, I'm doing pretty good. Braves are about to get ready for the playoffs. Florida State really almost stressed me out on Saturday blowing that lead.
Oh yeah,
I know they stressed you out. You were stressed watching that game because I
had no idea what was going on because it looked like a completely different team. But they pulled out the dub, and we're on to next week for the Jags. We got the Texans next week, so.
Like our beloved Jeff says, all that matters is the win column. And Florida State lived to fight another day, being 3-0 with a big game coming up this week. But I'm feeling good. I mean, the Cowboys are 2-0. We look absolutely amazing. Shout out to Jeff for telling me that, hey, you drafted the best guy in this draft, and your reaction, your overreaction on draft night is going to bite you in the ass, and it has done that at this point. And I'm more of a Micah Parsons apologist than anything. Not only am I appreciating his game, but I'm always apologizing for the simple fact on draft night, I was upset that we took Micah Parsons, and I've never been happier since. But I want to talk about, like Jeff said, we'll lean into the game that you watched. So Jeff, we'll start with you. What was of all the Sunday games, what was the game that you watched that like you really want to dive into? And if it's your team, I understand because it's probably a very high possibility all of us pick our teams and talk about them. But what was the game that you watched that caught your eye and that you want to talk about on Sunday?
So I dissected 2 of them. I watched them really close. First of all, just some quick notes. I watched the Bengals Ravens game early. My takeaway from that is this offense has brought out the Lamar that we all knew was there. Like, he was never a running back playing quarterback. He was in a system that called for that. I love what this offense coordinator's done. He looks more comfortable. The ball is coming out of his hand. Like he almost looks like a great quarterback just at the beginning of his career, even though he's had, already, 5 great seasons. Some of the throws he made yesterday were top level in the pocket throws that everybody's been waiting on. And then when he kicks in the legs to end the game with first downs, really deadly combination. I loved watching that. Takeaway on the Bengals side, they're a good team. Burrow's hurt. Like Burrow, they need to figure that out because I tweeted out today, a player playing at 60% when they're not used to that, you're really risking some dangerous stuff, messing around with this. And I know it's nothing on him, but it typically never pays off for these, especially these athletic quarterbacks, to really fight through this, because you think you can do one thing and you can't, and then you're favoring. And just I'm really concerned about the Joe Burrow situation. I know he's a great quarterback. They might need to take a step back, figure it out, and then hope they can win a bunch in a row and get to the playoffs. Then I watched New England Dolphins, of course, Sunday night. Loved it. My takeaway from that is McDaniel out-coached Belichick last night. They come on there. Collinsworth is going crazy. Oh, Belichick dropping 3 safeties. He doesn't want anything over the top. McDaniel was ready for it immediately. He threw underneath to those Waddle, and they put Waddle out, whether for whatever reason. But anyway, it went underneath immediately and took what they gave him. But with the speed of their receivers, what they give them, they get like an extra 5 or 6 yards every time they get the ball. So it was like McDaniel knew exactly what Belichick was going to do and played to it. And Tua had another, really great game. He got the running game going. Mostert went for over 100 yards on a Belichick defense. And, my last takeaway from the game was, I think it's fair to say that Belichick is just a ordinary great coach without Tom Brady. Like, it's a real thing. Like, that's a game last night to where if Brady's on the field, they might pull out a win, or if they're right there. Like it's just fair to say, like, it's not, he can't play quarterback too. It's like, it was a good defensive effort, but I thought McDaniel's, out-coached him, and he's just still he's the quirkiest, dude in the league right now. And I'm loving it, riding high on the Dolphins.
So let me ask you this, Jeff, before we move on to Jelani. Are you with me that the Dolphins are the best team in football right now? Because they're going to go number 1 in my power rankings again. They were number 1 last week. They're going to go number 1 again.
At this second, I think at this second, man, it's tough. Like them, Dallas, and the 49ers, like just at this minute, could all say they are, just because of how dominant they were for 2 weeks. Do I think they're the best team in football? No, I don't. But do I think after week 2 they can say that? I do. The defense is coming around. If Phillips gets healthy, who knows? But what I like about it is, everybody's worried about Tua. Well, he's out there playing within himself, and he's playing really good, and he's not getting banged around. He's not getting tossed around, So hopefully all that's behind him. Yeah, but they definitely have an argument for it, for sure.
I think Tua has the possibility to be the NFL version of Joel Embiid, which, hey, you spend your first few years injured, but you're an MVP caliber guy. And when you're finally healthy, you put it together and have the possibility of winning MVP. And I think that's where Tua's sitting at right now, is like, hey, if he put it together through 2 weeks, he's not hurt. He's able to put it together. This dude looks like he could win the MVP of the NFL. And so that's why, we were concerned about Embiid with early injuries in the NBA. And the next thing you know, finally was able to put it together, put a healthy season together and be MVP. I think that's where Tua's sitting right now, just a little bit earlier than Embiid. But Jelani, what was the game, a game or two that had your main focus on Sunday?
Yes, obviously my Falcons. I'll talk about them in a second. Of course. You got to be locked in early in the season.
Yeah, 2-0. The Dirty Birds are 2-0. Got to be locked in.
Exactly. But I think I had Red Zone on, so I was trying to pay attention to that, and then obviously, my game as well. But I'd say obviously Rams and 49ers was definitely one. I think kind of showed that what we thought last week, our overreaction. Me, Dad, we talked about the Rams a lot this past week. I think when we did our show on Wednesday or Thursday, it kind of showed that it's not really a fluke. I think they're gonna compete in that division, obviously in the conference, because the teams are a little bit weaker. So I think they showed that they haven't fallen off the cliff as of yet. I typically give teams obviously the first 4 weeks. I was gonna say for the first half of the season, but first 4 weeks I think is really going to be telling. But these first 2 games, they really showed that they're possibly going to be one of those teams that grab one of those wild card spots. But outside of that, obviously my Falcons, my takeaway from that was just, I think this team, is changing, quote unquote. Don't want to be corny about it, but the culture a little bit, because like I said before we start the show, we are always on the other side of those comebacks. And it was good to see us on the other side when those fourth quarter comebacks this year. Ritter, like you said, a little bit of question still at quarterback, but I think he played really, really well down the stretch. He stayed composed. A lot of people, I don't know how much truth it is or not, but they said that fourth down run was his play call, not Arthur Smith's, that toss to Bijan. So I think if that is true, that one takes some big kahunas to do that in your second year and not even look at your coach to make that play call, especially on the fourth down when we're still losing. And it's like 3 minutes left of the game. But it just kind of showed me that this team has a little bit of fight. Obviously, when I think I said it last week, and you put a little bit of talent around, a second-year quarterback, and obviously you revamp the defense with a bunch of veterans that can actually play and have some talent. Look what you can produce. So really good game. Really proud of how they fought. Although it may be, they didn't have Aaron Jones, they didn't have their Pro Bowl tackle, and I think their other starting guard got hurt too during the game. But you gotta play who's in front of you. You gotta play who's on the field, and they end up, like I said, coming back and winning that game. So definitely proud of the boys.
Yeah, I think it's one of those. Here's my thing is I think the Falcons are screwed. And I think they're in a position where they're going to have to – they might win the division and turn around and have to give a haul to either draft a quarterback or trade for an unhappy quarterback, which I don't know who the unhappy quarterback could be. I don't know if there's a quarterback looking for a new situation. That I don't know. We're only 2 weeks into the season. Storylines start to play out, but I could see like, hey, Desmond Ridder ain't it. He was good enough for us to win the division, but we need to improve. And if you win the division with Desmond Ridder and you feel like he's not it, you start to like, hey, what's the price going to cost us to get Caleb Williams or Drake May or Michael Penix Jr.? And then I could see the Falcons turn around giving a haul to try and draft one of those quarterbacks and kind of move on, because even if they're at very best a little bit better than Desmond Ridder, then your team becomes pretty good. But I think the Falcons have put themselves in a spot where they're not bad enough. They're not tanking for a quarterback, clearly. You don't start off 2-0 and say, yeah, we're just going to go 2-15 in the season. But at the same time, I think with what we're seeing from Desmond Ridder, I don't think he's the long-term answer for this team. Obviously, this isn't a fair question to ask Dad, because we know the game to watch that he watched because he went. So just talk to us about your Jaguars, because you went to the game. That was the game you watched.
Dad, tell us about the Jaguars.
I think you're muted, Dad. Or the only one that can't hear you.
Trying to make an excuse already.
Hold on. Am I the only one that can't hear him, or
Nah. He's about to get it fixed.
He knows what he's doing. He just don't.
Now he's muted.
Right there.
You're muted, Dad. Hold on. You're muted.
Y'all still can't hear me?
No, we can now.
There you go.
I was gonna say go to Prez, but
what's the excuse?
I'm a realistic Jaguars fan, so going in, I had expectations, but I didn't really expect us to win. If they did, I'd be a little surprised and happy. But just overall, it was an ass whooping. Our offensive line got whipped from the beginning. Like, if anybody let us down, I didn't expect it to be our offense. Our defense played really, really good for 4 quarters. We got a pick. And the Chiefs literally gave us every opportunity to win it, and it just wasn't the offense's day. Like, they muff a punt inside the 15. We get 3. We turn over the ball. We cause a fumble, and on the first play, Trevor throws a screen, and the receiver drops it. It's a backwards pass fumble. So they gave us every opportunity to capitalize, and we just didn't do it. And it's 100 degrees outside. After a while, the defense is going to get tired. They keep coming right back on the field. So
just notice
offense is just trash. I really don't have much to say. Offense is trash. Offensive line was trash. Ridley's dropping balls. Kirk's dropping balls. I don't really know what to say, man. It was hot. I was irritated. I wasted my money on the game. It was just a lot going on.
I know that Florida Heat, boy. You was hot. I know that Florida Heat. You was hot and mad.
They're literally laying in the concourse with the concession stand is passed out. Like, it was at least 50 fans that passed out. I swear to God. But,
it's that hot. It's Florida. Like, that's. I know. I grew up in that. I understand. When you go to a game, you expect your team to win because it's so damn hot. Y'all better make it worth my while.
It was terrible, but it was just awful overall. Like, it was a stinker for a home opener. It was a stinker, but I could be a Giants fan and have a shit team that's not going anywhere, coming off a good win versus the worst team in the league. So let's go ahead, Chris. Go ahead and talk about your.
Let's go ahead, Chris.
Well, That's a great segue. So, Chris, we're talking about the games that we watched, that we had full focus on. Obviously, this was kind of a segment of everybody to basically be able to talk about their team, because we know when your team was on, that's who you watch. So, talk to me about the Giants. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but feel great about beating the Cardinals. Go ahead, beat your chest in that Danny Dimes.
I mean, all of us here except for
two halves, literally.
Everyone except for this guy right here enjoyed our victory nap. I hope everyone enjoyed their victory nap. A win is a win. That's all I have to say. A win is a win. You take it.
A win is a win. And at the end of the
much to say.
At the end of the day, this is the NFL, not college football. A win is a win, and we don't value how your wins are. Your power rankings can mean absolutely nothing, because, hey, the amount of wins and the amount of losses get you in the playoffs. It doesn't matter who you beat. It doesn't matter how bad you beat them. At the end of the day, it's literally the NFL is literally a league of wins and losses.
It doesn't matter if you gave up 60 points in your first game and a half. It doesn't matter. Now you start.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You guys.
Right, be honest, Chris. Did you turn the TV off?
I was about to say, he said nothing more could be said. He didn't watch the game. He wasn't locked in. He just saw Bleacher Report.
He saw they came back and won, bro. He watched the highlights. No way you sat there and watched 4 quarters of that game. No way.
No, I watched the game. I got some cream cheese bagels.
Eating bagels while watching a 4:00 game is insane.
And watch Daniel Jones.
That's the craziest thing I've heard.
Hey, maybe a London game, but not a 4:00 game.
Cream cheese and bagels, the 1:00 game, I'm okay. Hey, you might have woke up late. It's a little bit of breakfast time, but watching a 4:00 game and saying
bagels are elite, man. We got to eat bagels out here.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna take this time to beat my chest in. The Dallas Cowboys look absolutely amazing. That was the game that I fully focused on, and we looked absolutely amazing. And the person I want to give a shout out to is Mike McCarthy, because he came into this season, fired Kellen Moore, and said, look, if I'm going to be on the hot seat, I'm going to die my way. And so far through 2 games, he's dying his way, sitting at 2-0, and he's not dying. The offense looked pretty good. And I know everybody's like, you played Zach Wilson. I get that. But Dak Prescott did not go against Zach Wilson. Dak Prescott went against what everybody said was a top 5 defense. Dak Prescott had to play against a defense that caused Josh Allen to cause 4 turnovers. Dak Prescott is not going one-on-one, mano-a-mano against Zach Wilson. So I hate, if you want to discredit how good our defense has looked the past 2 weeks because we played Daniel Jones and Zach Wilson, that's fine. But the way Dak looked yesterday, he went against the Jets defense that everybody told me is top 5. They looked better. We praised them when they beat the Bills, even despite Aaron Rodgers' injury. There was so much praise for the Giants defense, and now all of a sudden it's a Dak versus the opposite quarterback, like he's not playing against their defense. Oh, yeah, he's throwing and Zach Wilson has to cover everybody. I'm giving a shout out to Mike McCarthy because his play calling was, I'm not going for the big plays. I'm not going to be exciting. We don't have to sit here and throw the ball down the field and make sure CeeDee Lamb has an 80-yard touchdown reception. I'm going to take what you give me, and I'm going to capitalize off of it, and I'm going to run the ball, and I'm going to play dink and dunk football if that's what you give me, and all my players walk away having elite days. CeeDee Lamb had an absolutely amazing day against corners. We say this is the Jets are arguably the best cornerback duo in football. Now, I would say Dallas has that, but that's, no bias in there that Stephon Gilmore and Trayvon Diggs are 2 top 5 corners. But everything we did yesterday, you have to love. And it's always, every time I have to say this, dude, Micah Parsons will forever be correlated with Jeff. Micah Parsons is arguably, and I say arguably because I don't want to argue about it, he's one of the best non-quarterback football players in football, period. And I say of quarterbacks. I'm not talking about on the offensive side, defensive side. You can't name me a quarterback that has as much impact as Micah Parsons outside of maybe Nick Bosa, but I don't think he's been as explosive through the first 2 games like Micah Parsons has, obviously because of contract situations and didn't do training camp or whatever. The Dallas Cowboys are absolutely amazing, but what I'm not going to do to myself They're still the third best team in football, and I'm going to stick by that, and that's where they're going to sit in my power rankings, because what I'm not going to do is get overly excited to let myself down come January. I'm not going to do it.
No, that's
So
not
she
a Cowboys fan. Like, that's going to
The funniest part is,
right?
I'm not doing it.
shout out to Mo for going 8 Mile on himself. Like, he just told us every bad thing that people. We never said one thing about the Cowboys, and he's like, "I know what everybody's saying." Like,
Oh, I know everything that everybody's saying.
no, I do agree with like the football side of it. So I'll go for just a second on that. Just because I'm not a fan of the Cowboys by any means, just someone that watched a decent amount of that game. I agree with what you say though. Like, we were told this Jets defense was a defense that could win a Super Bowl on its own, and Dallas cut them up. That has to mean something. Now, I know that as the game goes on and a defense has a terrible quarterback behind them, it does fade. So yes, you're not getting like a defense just can't give its full effort when there's extra possessions and stuff. I understand that, but I agree. Man to man, we were told how great they were, and they got thumped. So I think that's the biggest takeaway. That is the fairest statement. Is like,
because we killed their defense. Like, my thing is, if we win that game if we win the game the way we did yesterday, and Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback, now
but
we're
they
sitting
wouldn't.
here.
But they wouldn't.
No,
That would not happen.
100%.
Playing Zach Wilson. This is where we need to roll it. Playing Zach Wilson helps.
Aaron Rodgers not throwing 3 picks.
Wilson's a bad quarterback.
He is.
Like, he's the worst kind of quarterback because he actually makes it harder on his team. Like, he can honestly go out there and punt sometimes, and I think would be better than what he does. Like, he takes
the drive, just
he takes the wind out of the. But I'm just saying, like, that's a real thing. Now, I'm not saying I'm not even. I think Dallas would have beat Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, but I'm saying it wouldn't have looked like that just simply because Wilson's a negative quarterback. Like, he makes his team worse by being out there. It's I had hopes for him after last week, and credit to him, he got it done. His team's 1-1. We've said it all day. His team is still 1-1, and
with no expectation of ending up.
Jets got to do something quick.
But
or this defense will shut down.
What are the options? Unless they,
I don't know. I honestly don't think there is one, Chris.
There's no realistic option.
Kirk Cousins.
No,
Cousins ain't leaving Minnesota.
Kirk Cousins.
Because Cousins is so comfortable.
It's possible.
If Cousins is so comfortable in Minnesota, I don't see a chance.
But he's an impending free agent. Like, the thing is, he doesn't have a contract extension. We're not talking about 3 years left on his deal.
There has to be, like, whatever happened to, like, 35-year-old lifetime backups that still got something like
they're all Zach Wilson. They signed Todd Boyle or Tim Boyle or whatever his name is. Like, they're clearly all in on not creating quarterback controversy. Now, clearly, I think this week.
What about Baker Mayfield? I
don't think no, the Bucs ain't letting go of Baker Mayfield.
He's on a trade. Yeah, but why wouldn't he? He's on a 1-year contract. If they can, because
they're evaluating him to have to pay him.
Yeah, they're still in contention,
keeping him in Tampa.
They're 2-0 too.
Literally, this is a tryout for Baker to be the Bucs quarterback for the next couple of years
in that division.
You could be 8-9.
Yeah, but I don't think Tampa Bay wants. I think Tampa Bay wants. Like, I think they would much rather have, like, I don't know.
No, they've stated that, like, basically the reason why they didn't give Mike Evans that big payday was because they got some young defensive guys, Devin White and Antoine Winfield Jr. They're looking at their youth, and they're also considering the fact that they might have to pay.
There has to be somebody. There fucking has to be somebody.
Like, Carson Wentz is out there. There is somebody. They don't want to create quarterback controversy. Like, Carson Wentz.
There's no controversy. Here's what the Jets know.
He's better than Zach Wilson.
Sucks.
Yes, as we start today.
He's better than Zach Wilson. We're not. He was a borderline playoff quarterback with the Colts. Like, he was one game away from, if he beat the Jags, he goes to the playoffs with the Colts. Carson Wentz is miles ahead of Zach Wilson. At the end of the day, I get Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz isn't great, but he's miles ahead of Zach Wilson, and the thing that we looked at with the Colts, they had a good defense. They had enough weapons to be at borderline best a playoff team. If you're the Jets and you had Super Bowl aspirations with Aaron Rodgers and he goes down, you want to at least be borderline at best a playoff team. I think Carson Wentz could do that. But clearly they bring in Tim Boyle or Tom Boyle or Todd Boyle, whatever his name is, to back up Zach Wilson. So they're sending the message that they're not trying to create quarterback controversy. They're giving the keys to Zach Wilson.
I'll just give my first overreaction. The Jets are cooked. There's no option. They're cooked.
Is that an overreaction, or is that just how everybody feels after watching Zach Wilson?
That's what I'm saying. I'll just give the first.
Yeah, it's after watching Zach, but like you said, we're thinking somebody. Like Carson Wentz is probably the best name.
I heard that.
I
heard Thad Bell still out there.
I ain't ready for that.
My man got some
I
running.
think, be honest though, I know the Colts won't do it, but I do Gardner Minshew or
that is a solid.
Jameis Winston. I think
that.
they're both better than Zach Wilson.
But I think if Richardson might be hurt though, right?
Yeah.
So now
I think they could have stole him a week ago.
Yeah, they could have stolen him last Monday, but this
Richardson looked good
because Richardson might not play for a week.
And especially what happened to Tua last year. If this is similar, like Minshew might be the quarterback for 2 months.
I'm not gonna lie though, Jeff. The way he plays, it's like bound to happen until he learns that. Like I get he's real talented. He's stronger than most of the guys on defense, which is rare for a quarterback. But he has to play differently. Like when he played us, he was taking a whole bunch of shots, and he didn't even finish the game versus us.
They're going to keep adding up. You're correct.
Yeah.
And we saw that, we've already seen that happen with a guy that was like that. Cam Newton came in, he was the best athlete in the league. It still adds up. Like it just keeps adding up, those hits.
I'm not gonna lie though, real quick before we move on. Like I know Cam was reckless, but like when Cam had opportunities to go out of bounds, was he always trying to run over defenders like every single time? Because Richardson does that. Like he can go out of bounds.
Oh, really? I haven't got to watch him much.
Yeah.
That's why you're the guru, man.
How do you take that mind? Like if you and I heard this with Justin Fields, not to get off the track, but like I heard on a lot of radio.
We're gonna talk about Justin Fields later, so we'll get you back on track.
Changing the guys, like everybody wants everybody to be a pocket quarterback, and I get that's that's how you win and all that, but it's very hard to change, how a lot of these quarterbacks play. Like to tell Richardson to play different, meanwhile he's been playing this whole way his whole life, and this is what's got him here. That's not easy to do. Like
not at all.
I know you have to do some things to limit the hits, but like it's hard. Like look at Cam Newton, RG3, all the older he's running Michael Vick. They played the same way their whole career. Like it's hard to tell them, hey, sit in the pocket and just go through your progressions. Like I just
when your feet have gotten you as far as getting drafted in the first round. Like
I don't know. Let's ask that. Let's ask that the question. Thad, if you all of a sudden you got a coach that comes in, how quick can you change the way you play?
They used to do that a lot back in the 90s and like Achilles Smith, all those quarterbacks, they used to try to make them, and then like instead of just using their gifts and what got them there, they change them. Now it seems like more now there, but like I don't always like that. Like, oh, we got to make him a pocket quarterback. No, use his strengths.
Everybody's mobile. The top 15 quarterbacks in the league right now are all mobile. Now there's levels of mobile, but I mean, even a guy like Baker is mobile. He can create by extending a play. And we're talking about Baker Mayfield, who we might not value the way. But my thing is, I think we need to move off the fact of trying to change guys into pocket passers, because the top 15, possibly the top 20 quarterbacks all can move and create and extend plays. Like I don't. Who's a pocket passer in the NFL right now? Matt Stafford? Like maybe. That's it.
The last generation.
Like Matt Stafford, Jared Goff, and Kirk Cousins are probably in the top 20. Those are the three pocket passers that don't really extend plays with their feet. We're talking about 3 of 20 guys that are valuable and are starters, and everybody else extends plays. From Dak to Hurts to Lamar. Now there's levels to Mahomes to T-Law. Josh Allen, like there's levels of what they do it at, but they all can extend plays with their feet. But when guys first come in, we ask them to be pocket passers, even though the best quarterbacks.
I don't think, but we're not asking AR to be a pocket passer.
That's for him to tune it down. I think he should just tune it down. Like as you get older, you get smarter. Just know when to get down. Every play matters, but you don't have to risk your body every play. Like I'm trying to think of a player that goes down. What's a running back that doesn't take unnecessary contact all the time? I know Emmitt Smith did it sometimes too. But like Tyler Lockett, he'll get down. When a play's dead, the play's dead, basically.
Yeah.
And receivers what's crazy is the receivers are the best at that. They don't their bodies. They don't drop their shoulder and get the extra yard. If they got 10 yards and that's all they needed for the first down, they got the first down. That's it. Like, it's crazy that quarterbacks need to talk to receivers of, hey, what is it that you do to just make sure you do enough to make sure the play was successful?
That's what Josh Allen needs to learn.
Nah, he's never gonna learn. That man's trying to hurdle people from 7 yards away.
You just see the hurdle. If Josh Allen had another touchdown, they blew out the Raiders. But there's that one play where he hurdled. If he just goes straight through, he gets the touchdown. But he tried to jump over, dude. Like, no, bro.
All quarterbacks should slide at all costs. So I want to move on and go to biggest winners. We'll start with Jeff and we'll go back around. Jeff, biggest winner of week 2. I know we got 2 Monday Night Football games going on right now, so it's a little weird on really stamping on who our biggest winners are because there's 4 teams still playing. But right now through Sunday, who is your biggest winner?
I actually think Lamar Jackson from yesterday. I touched on it earlier when I watched the game. He had a great game. He looks comfortable in this offense. This looks more like him. He went into the rival, the team that he has to knock off. He went into Cincinnati, won the game, looked great, and also he's also a guy that he gets. It's the argument of whether they can push him into the elite category or not with quarterbacks. So at the same time as he's doing that, you got, Trevor Lawrence, you got Justin Herbert, you got Joe Burrow across from you that didn't look as well. So, Jackson, I think Jackson has I think by the end of the year, Jackson, we're going to be talking about him as he's a top 3 quarterback if he keeps this up. It looks great there in Baltimore right now, what they got going on with this new offense. So I think he's got to go home 2-0, beat Cincinnati. Burrow's limping around. He's got his money. He defeated the NFL. He defeated the billionaire NFL owners. I got to think that he's feeling as good as he can feel about being a football player right now. And he's not getting, we just had a conversation about it. He is not taking the hits and getting beat up, like he has the past couple seasons. It feels like there's a comfort zone there. I say Lamar Jackson came out of week 2, and leveled up to another level of superstar, if that was even possible.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Jelani, who is your biggest winner coming out of week 2?
Kind of got 2, and they're not really super huge wins. It's just little wins for them. Kansas City, I will say, because after that loss to Detroit by 1, obviously they signed Chris Jones back. Travis Kelce was healthy enough to play, and I just say it was a small win for them. Obviously, they didn't look great by any means, but they got a win.
Their defense looks legit.
Needed. Yeah, exactly. They got back the two of their top 3 guys back to help them prevail and win that game. Because
Chris Jones is a monster.
We don't know what that looks like if they don't have those 2 guys playing. Even though Kelce, like I said, didn't have that much of an impact, but you don't have Chris Jones there, you could be looking at 0-2. Obviously, your next 2 games is the Bears and the Jets, so you may end up 2-2 and maybe fine. But you never want to go out 0-2 and then we're never really worried about the Chiefs, but you just never want to start 0-2 and then possibly facing an 0-3 deficit the next week. So that was a small win for them. And then the other one, the Cardinals, because obviously they're still in the race for Caleb Williams, but they look nice. They look great losing. They've been looking great.
No, I agree.
Giving all these
you're the biggest loser now.
I gotta mention it. I had to. But they look. I like how they're playing. I like how they look. They looked a lot like I said, offensively. They look comfortable. They've been playing well. Defensively, they are flying around. There's a second week in a row they had a pick 6. So I mean they're looking great losing, and obviously they're still in the running for Caleb Williams or whoever.
Shout out to Josh Dobbs, man. So, love that guy.
I'm just mad.
How much? Wait, there's one.
My biggest winner.
Is it possible? Is it?
I didn't know I didn't know who was gonna go for it.
I'm Mo, you picked a loser as being the biggest winner. Yeah, they're in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes while looking pretty decent. How was that not?
Josh Dobbs. That was gonna be my guy.
Just something to think about. Josh Dobbs to the Jets makes them immensely better.
Which is crazy. Zach
love
Wilson
that dude.
So bad that we're talking about taking.
I like guys that stick around and just keep working and get a shot. And
just whenever they can get their
he's already bought himself a few more years in the league. I love it.
Yeah, and he could be at the very worst a career backup, and that's solid. That's
awesome.
You're going to make a couple $1 million a year. Shout out to Josh.
He wasn't the worst starter yesterday. Like he was a legit. He deserved to be a starter yesterday. So anyway, I'll let that go. But I like that. I like that take.
Chris, who's your biggest winner?
Jeff took mine. I was going to go with Josh Dobbs. I think just the sheer fact that he got an opportunity. There's not a lot of journeyman quarterbacks that bounce around the league and get an opportunity to start in year 8. You know, we've seen Geno had who's the dude that was in Cincinnati for a minute, the backup. He was like on a bunch of teams.
Fitzpatrick?
No. Dad, you're a mute. You're probably saying it.
Oh shit, AJ McCarron.
That's what I said.
No.
I don't think it was him. Yeah.
Chad Henne?
He played in a playoff game. It's gonna bother
AJ McCarron. He was behind.
Yeah, it had to be
McCarron.
Yeah.
No.
Or Chad Henne or
No. Not a white dude. Not a white dude.
Another white
black dude played for the Bengals quarterback.
Yeah.
He bounced. He was in a bunch of teams, but it's bothering me that I can't.
Josh Johnson?
It gotta be Josh Johnson.
Yeah.
Josh Johnson.
Oh yeah, Josh Johnson's a dude.
Yeah. It reminds me of that. Like Josh Johnson, like guys like that don't last a bunch of years playing for a bunch of different teams and all that. So like to see Josh Dobbs get an opportunity to start, and after 8 years, like you know that was cool to see. And like you guys said, it buys him maybe another few more years in the league. And maybe he'll get a nice payday to be a backup quarterback. Or maybe, like Jeff said, maybe the Jets are like, hold up a second. Maybe this Josh Dobbs guy, maybe, fills in the gap and, is better than what we got now. So,
well, Chris, I'll tell you this.
He played good too. Like, just his team's not good right now. But
Pittsburgh would have been better off to keep Dobbs than what they've got going on now. That's my opinion. There's a overreaction.
Quarterbacks are
just saying. He was on the team. He was on the team. They would be better off than
he was. Just get him.
It's crazy that they talk about him like this. I did not think he was gonna make it this far.
It's crazy. Good. It's a great story though for him. So I hope he continues to play.
Oh yeah, I forgot he went to Alpharetta, didn't he?
Yeah, they ain't gonna let him win though. They ain't gonna let him win.
Shout out to Josh Dobbs for buying himself a few years at the very least to be a well-paid backup, career backup quarterback at the worst, and you get to start.
He does stuff for NASA and something like that. Like he's a very smart.
He's smart as hell. Yeah, he's smart as hell. He's a something engineer, aerospace, something crazy like that.
They said that when he was at Tennessee, like if he decided not to go to the NFL, he still would be a very wealthy man with a career. So he's one of those different type of dudes. So who was your biggest winner?
I hate to say it, but it's the Falcons. I was going to piss y'all off and say the Commanders because the offense looks much better. It just looks like a lot of potential there. But I'm going to say the Falcons. Like Jelani said, in the years past, they'd always find a way to lose these type games. And the way they look right now with bad quarterback play only gives me hope for what it looks like when Ritter gets it together and they get somebody better in there. Like Kyle Pitts is non-existent, and we know what he can be if somebody can get him the ball. Bijan Robinson looks amazing. I know, Jeff, you hate him more than the top 10, but he looks like a mix of LT, CMC, and maybe even Marshall Faulk. Like he really looks like the real deal, in my opinion. So
I thought he was the best player. I thought Robinson was the best player in college football last year.
For sure, they're trending upwards. Like I love how when teams spend money in free agency, sometimes it pays off. Like Jesse Bates, Calais Campbell, all the acquisitions they made in the offseason are paying off. So I just think the Falcons are trending upwards, and they beat two solid teams, in my opinion. Like, I don't think the Packers are a terrible team. The Packers have not really good defense, but pretty good defense because they played the Bears week 1 and they look trash on offense. Yeah. But just overall, the Falcons look good, trending upwards. They look like they're being coached well. They have good time management, which is kind of rare for Falcons teams. So glad to see them doing well, even though I'm not.
Fair point.
And quick story, Josh Dobbs, he went to our high school for like 4 days and then he transferred our freshman year.
He was scared. He couldn't compete.
Nah, he said our school's in the hood and we were in the suburbs. So he's that type of guy.
We're like 25% of every race. I was like, what the? That doesn't make sense.
I don't know. But yeah, he was literally there for 4 days, came to practice and transferred.
He said, what, Chris? Yeah, I got the Hooper shirt on.
Yo, Hoopers, where's my shirt?
Yes,
I gotta get one of them.
Hoopers, where's the shirt? So I'm gonna say my biggest winner. God, this pains me to say it, bro. It really do, but Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they sitting here 2-0. Everybody know I hate the Bucs because that's what I grew up around, was nothing but Bucs fans, and they sucked for my entire life. They had 2 flash years. They won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. They won a Super Bowl with freaking Brad Johnson back in the day.
Whoa. Early 2000s Bucks weren't a flash, dog.
Yeah, they were a flash. They sucked for so many years. They sucked for so many years in between when winning that Super Bowl and Tom Brady.
Derrick Brooks gonna knock on your door.
Well, shout out to Darren Brooks. He can knock on my door all he wants.
Derrick Brooks, you youngsters. I can't do this.
Derrick Brooks. I said Derrick.
You said Darren. You said Darren.
No, I said Derrick.
You just disrespected Derrick Brooks.
First off,
Derrick Brooks gonna whip Mo's ass.
First off, I'm not going to disrespect Derrick Brooks when I said that Bucks defense was one of the best defenses that I've ever seen. When you talk about Simeon Rice, Warren Sapp. Either way, I'm not going to get into the Bucks history. Where they're sitting at right now, and I said this before the season. I said this before the season, so I get to kind of, I was right here because we could talk about how many times I was wrong. But Baker Mayfield is not as bad as everybody thinks. He's not a great quarterback. He's not a really good quarterback. But with what they have offensively and what they have defensively, Baker Mayfield is a nice plug-and-play quarterback. We could win some games, just manage the game, don't turn the ball over, and that's what he's done up to this point. And the Bucks are sitting here 2-0. Well, basically, nobody thought they were going to beat the Vikings. I did. I called them as my upset. But they're sitting as like underdogs up 2-0. And Baker Mayfield looks good. That's all he looks good. But it reminded me a lot of the Browns when the Browns went to the playoffs that year with Baker, and they had Jarvis Landry and a healthy Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry, and they had a run game. Like, that's what it looks like right now. Now, they don't have Nick Chubb in the backfield, but at the same time, Rashad White gets the job done. They got Mike Evans. They got Chris Godwin, and they got a good enough defense where this team can really win some games. They're going to win some games they're not supposed to. As long as the thing is that I'm worried about the Bucs right now. I think they're the biggest winner. But does it implode? Because at some point, the type of guy that Baker Mayfield is when he starts winning, he start thinking back of himself as Baker Mayfield, number one pick. I'm that guy. And so does it implode is my only question and concern about the Bucs is does Baker stop them from reaching whatever we could consider their ultimate success for this season? Could Baker get in the way of that based on having early success with the Bucs will be my question. But I think the Bucs are big winners. I mean, sitting here 2-0, being able to compete for the division. You're talking about we thought the NFC South might be the worst division in football. And there's a possibility at the night's end there could be 3 teams 2-0. Like there could be 3 teams 2-0 in the NFC South by tonight's end, which is essentially absolutely crazy because I don't think nobody would even call that. Like even through the first 2 weeks, I don't think the NFC South would have surprised you the way they have. So that is my biggest winner. Now, Thad, I want to go to you. We'll go right back around. Biggest loser for week 2.
Got to be the Bears, in my opinion. I know a lot of people hyped them up. I'm not even talking about Justin Fields.
I just want to ask, is it the Bears or is it Justin Fields?
It's the whole.
It's the offense. My fault. The offense. OT and Justin Fields.
I'll come up with another one because,
I don't understand. I mean, they had a lot of hype coming into the season, but I just didn't expect it to look this bad overall. Like the offensive coordinator is terrible, and Justin Fields is just as bad. He just doesn't look comfortable. His pocket presence is off. He's giving up on plays before he has to. Sometimes he's acting like he has 10 seconds in the pocket, like this is Little League football. They got guys running curl routes 2 yards next to each other. It's just bad overall. It looks like middle school football. And for them to have all those expectations, they traded away the number 1 pick. Not even saying Bryce Young would be better than Justin Fields, but they got DJ Moore, they got a tackle, and it looks the same, if not worse. They don't have any type of rhythm. There's no method to what they're doing, in my opinion, and they're just like, after that script, the first 15 plays it's a disaster. And the first 15 plays aren't even as smooth as they're supposed to be. So people said Fields might be MVP this year. The Bears might be a dark horse to win the NFC North. And through 2 weeks, they beat 2 teams that, quite frankly, if they were ready for that big stage, they would have beat. And they just look awful in offense. And I'm not even saying the defense. The defense isn't playing that bad. But for them getting DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, the backup from Texas, I forgot his name, Rochelle Johnson, the running back, I like him a lot. They have too much talent to be performing how they're performing. So they got to be my biggest losers. And they have all this draft capital. They got the first-round pick for the Panthers and theirs next year. So if Justin Fields doesn't pick it up, I think change of scenery is best for both sides. And they need to get a new OC for sure because Getsy got to go.
Yeah, I just want to follow up real quick because that was my number 1. the Fields thing's over. Like that's done. I think he can still quarterback in the league, but that's done. Like it's just that it's time to. Thad's right. He's mentally is a mess out there. Like how everything's mixed up. You can tell he's overthinking. You can tell he's trying to do too much. But just real quick to piggyback on to Thad, another biggest loser would be Caleb Williams watching the Bears play, because there ain't no way he wants to go to that mess next year. So
they get a new coordinator, yes, but like real quick, Jeff,
nobody wants to go play quarterback in Chicago, dog.
I'd go play I'd go play if that offensive coordinator in Detroit that entertained the simple fact of, hey, if I had Justin Fields and he wasn't doing it for him being a Lions, they asked him about being a head coach and he's like, I'm taking it a week at a time, but if I did take this job over there in Chicago, I could do a lot of things with Justin Fields. I would feel confident if that offensive coordinator from the Lions.
That's a dead spot. The Bears might be
the worst team. Real quick, y'all watch Ohio State. I know Fields is not playing well, but the OC he only has 4 designed QB runs through 2 weeks. You got to use one of your best weapons a little better than that. Get him involved any way you can. If it's not,
I don't think this is all on Fields.
No, I'm just saying, like you gotta.
But he's a mess.
Your quarterback and the OC got to be on the same page. Y'all talk every single day for hours and hours. You're with them more than anybody else. So,
yeah,
and then obviously watching Justin Fields and knowing how special he can be, I still, to this day, will say as far as for Ohio State, Justin Fields has been the best quarterback we've had in my lifetime. I'll just say in my lifetime, and I think
correct.
Justin Fields is the best quarterback.
He's the best quarterback they've ever had.
Yeah, so
we won't go down that road.
Chris, biggest loser.
Biggest loser, Robert Saleh. It's over. He's not gonna.
Okay, you took my second pick. I like going last. I got to come up with more.
No, I hate going last because y'all take all of them.
Have you heard this man talk? He looks defeated. He does a radio spot on the Michael K show every week, and the man just sounds defeated. He's forcing himself into Zach Wilson, and it's not good because this was already a big year for him, year 3. And obviously when you have Aaron Rodgers, there's high expectations and all that. And now there's a lot of fire on him. And I don't know if he's the right guy to handle this, type of adversity and all that. And so I think he's the biggest loser of this.
I think the Aaron Rodgers injury bought him another year though.
Nah.
I do. I think
he certainly did.
Yeah, he has the utmost excuse. Like any coach who's on the hot seat, if you lose your quarterback, like you now have an excuse. Like I lost my quarterback. What did you expect me to do? Like,
if you hear from the people from New York who cover the team,
rationale in New York, it doesn't mix. So I agree with you, Mo.
On him, but the minute Aaron Rodgers, I'm not gonna lie. The minute Aaron Rodgers went down, I don't want to see my quarterback get hurt. I never wish injury up on anybody. But if there was one person who was probably the biggest winner from that injury, it was Robert Saleh because, hey, I just bought myself another year being the head coach.
I agree.
God, I hate that I lost Aaron Rodgers, but shit, I bought myself another year because I have every excuse where I have to turn to the quarterback that we didn't believe in last year. They were chanting Mike White to get Zach Wilson off the field last year. Like, it's not like the expectations completely shot. And so
remember this: if Joe Douglas, because Joe Douglas drafted Zach Wilson, right? If Joe Douglas gets axed, Robert Saleh is getting axed.
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Possible.
They're not keeping Joe. If Joe Douglas gets fired, Saleh's going right behind him, and they're going to start.
I don't know if Joe. Has Joe Douglas done a job where he deserved to get axed, though? They've killed the draft. They've been a quarterback short. Yeah, you drafted Zach.
Literally just the quarterback.
Yeah, but like you were a quarterback short, and you addressed that scenario by getting Aaron Rodgers. Like you trading for Aaron Rodgers bought everybody another year. Now that he got hurt, it's not like our draft picks everywhere else are hidden. Breece Hall, good. Sauce Gardner, one of the best corners in the league. Garrett Wilson looks like a possible superstar wide receiver. Like you nailed the draft everywhere but quarterback.
They whiffed there, but they whiffed on the most important. They could have whiffed on cornerback, defensive end, but if they hit on Zach Wilson, it did none of those other picks matter.
Did they whiff that
bad on the most important position? And now that you have to go back,
I don't think you missed the way they thought they did, though. I don't think. Here's what I said.
They realized that after year one, we messed up.
Here's what you're saying. Just give me a second. You didn't whiff because your other options were Trey Lance, Mac Jones, or Justin Fields.
And they whiffed.
They all sucked.
Okay,
You
but they
didn't
whiffed.
whiff.
I don't think Mac Jones. I don't think Mac
I'm-
Jones sucks.
I think
Yeah,
Mac
me
Jones.
neither.
I think Mac Jones sucks.
They whiffed.
And
I think
even
Mac Jones could take. Mac Jones
you
could
have
take the Jets.
borderline.
Jets
You
team
have
to the
you
playoffs.
have good at best if you took, but I don't think you whiffed the way it looks with taking
No,
Zach Wilson because the options was Trey Lance, Justin Fields, or Mac Jones. Like you didn't whiff that bad.
No, they whiffed bad.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. We
It's
all
called
sat here
people
drafting.
The quarterback situation too, though, by getting Aaron Rodgers, you didn't
But
expect
we all-
him to get hurt at the end of the day.
We all sat here. Yeah, but Aaron Rodgers chose to go to the Jets. He
I mean,
literally
yeah,
just
you
was like,
addressed
I'm going
it. You
But
got
real-
lucky. You
but
got a
I'm
guy.
just saying, real quick, we all sat here draft night and said, "Don't draft Zach Wilson." It's not like we're
Yeah, I
surprised.
mean, yeah, that is like it is.
And he
it is
drafted Zach Wilson.
Was like
That's an abomination, and it's going to cost someone a job because
What
they
would
have
they
to
have
go back
done
to
though
their-
with that in that draft though? Like, what would they have done if
Draft
they didn't take
Justin
Zach Wilson?
Fields?
If they took Trey Lance, that shit would have. I mean, that stuff.
No,
would've
no,
been-
I agree, Thad.
draft the second best quarterback at the time. If you got the number two,
Hold on, real quick, Mo. The Jets were the only team I feel like they were locked in. Because remember, like in not April, but like February, March when his pro day was, they were already talking about Jets locked in.
Oh, it was guaranteed.
Yeah.
They kept
Everybody else
yeah,
was just
you could, the thing is, you don't kill the Jets as bad if they draft Justin Fields and he sucks because you're like, well, he was the second best quarterback in this draft. He should have went number 2. And hey, we didn't wait for the draft. The guy we picked just sucked.
He shows signs. Zach Wilson's just not good.
That's what I'm saying. Like you don't look at the Jets as bad. If Justin Fields goes to the Jets, they've murdered every other draft pick, and you're like, oh, Justin Fields just sucks. That's not a whiff. It's just like, hey, we took the guy we were supposed to. He just happened to suck. You can't control that, but you take Zach Wilson and think you're smarter than everybody. That does become the
and now
that does
over.
become
It's over.
Oh,
The season's over.
To be fair, though, a lot of teams are a great quarterback away from going to the Super Bowl. Like you got to have one of like Mahomes could take probably 6 teams in this league to the Super Bowl. So it's that's an easy out for these teams.
Yeah, 100%. So
I think Joe Douglas could.
Rodgers wasn't taking that. Just for the record, like we need to go back and Rodgers wasn't taking that team to the Super Bowl.
No,
like Rodgers is 38-year quarterback. He just got hurt. He got hurt play 4 instead of week 4 or week 8. But like Rodgers, this is how
it seems like it was inevitable.
Like nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah,
But this is how it was going to end up.
The problems that we thought about the Jets just happened a lot sooner than we thought it would. Like we knew watching Hard Knocks. Jeff, you covered, you watched Hard Knocks faithfully and did the show with Aaron. And the thing about it was they were always bringing up the offensive line needs to be better. So like, yeah, and it happened in play 4 instead.
It just happened. You're right, Mo. It happened really quick. If this happens week 10, we're like, well, it was bound. Like we're having a different conversation, but it was just, this is how it was going to end up. It just got sped up.
It's crazy, before we move on, like, I know y'all were thinking the same thing, how you were talking about the offensive line. Literally, I'm not even trying to, like, toot my own horn, but, like, the player 2 before, I'm like, it's drive 1 in the offensive line. Like, I don't think he's going to last the whole season. Like, he was pressured on the first 3 passes, all 3 passes. They're trying to cut, they're missing, they're just whiffing straight up. I'm like, it's going to be bad, and then that happens.
And nobody wanted to talk about it, That I mean,
inevitable that was going to happen probably at some point during the season, just happened to happen early on in the season in the first 4 games. So, Jelani, who's your biggest loser? Take mine again.
Yeah, I was like, it's probably going to – it actually goes off of the 2 that you said last week. I don't think you said losers, but you definitely talked about them. I know about the Broncos, and you also talked about the Chargers, and I was going to take the Chargers. I don't know if that's your one, but the Chargers because
it's not my one, but they are.
Yeah, because one, they dropped 0-2, like you said that they were going to do, and then
I already missed that.
Yeah,
he did say
to drop off. I figured, but yeah, mine was the Chargers just because they went 0-2. I looked at their schedule. I don't think they will, but it's a possibility that they could be sitting at 0-6. The Vikings have been a tough out. They're not the greatest team, but that is a game that they could still lose. The Raiders obviously upset. Who they play first week? I'm tripping. They upset the Broncos the first week of the season, and it's a divisional game. Never know how those go. Then right after that, they play your Cowboys and KC, and we're not really expecting them possibly to win those 2 games the way they've played so far. I mean, they haven't played bad, but they haven't finished games. And 0-6, obviously, that's you're pretty much out of the playoff race.
Does their head coach make it to the rest of the season? Does Brandon Staley make it to
at
the
an 0-6 start?
No.
0-6, he's done.
That's done. Yeah.
Even if he does
at 2-4,
2-4, like do you
because
really?
a lot of this is his fault. A
Yeah.
lot of this is his fault. He is just no.
He's been bad. Like he's been absolutely horrible. So there's a world where like they're working with an interim head coach and kicking themselves in the foot for not firing him last year, where we thought it was a possibility of hiring Sean Payton. Like I think that might bite the Chargers in the butt for the next 10 years.
How fast does Dan Quinn get hired at the end of the season?
That's a good question. But he
hopefully
could have got hired last year, but they say he wanted to stay.
Hopefully not fast at all. I think he wanted to stay because he was hoping Mike McCarthy would implode and he just become the Cowboys head coach. I think that's why he stayed.
He may have thought that too.
Well, he stayed, to be honest. Like
good
I think
point. Good point.
Like what's his face from the
and I want to be clear. I'm a proponent for coordinators to stay because I think that's the biggest mistake that teams make is promote coordinators. Like let them do their job. And I think we're talking about Brandon Staley. He's having the same problem. He's just not a head coach. And I thought that was going to be McDaniel, but McDaniel's. I don't know. McDaniel's some kind of wonder kid. Like, I mean, seriously.
Yeah, but he was also, when you look at the Dolphins offense,
he's
like
out of control, man.
He went there and said, "This is what I need to succeed," and they went and got.
Yeah, everything. But his defense is also good. His game management is really good. Like he.
Oh yeah. He is meant to be a head coach, but I think he just jumped in the situation and was like, "This is what I need to succeed." Right. X, Y, and Z, and they gave him X, Y, and Z. Hey, Tyreek Hill doesn't, Chiefs don't want to pay him. Bring him here. I got Jalen Waddle. Bring me Raheem Mostert, a running back I'm fully familiar with. We've nailed the draft on other.
You don't realize Mostert's like in year 8.
Yeah, and is sitting here.
He's an old running back.
He's like Fred Jackson.
Because he spent so much of his career being hurt. Yeah, it's like even though he's in year 8, he's not his body injury wise.
It's not gonna last.
But he hasn't played the minutes of like
Guys, we're already talking like it's week 2 and we've like all these running backs are banged up. I haven't heard anything about Saquon.
Yeah, he's out 3 weeks now.
Yeah, I mean it's like this is just how it's going to go with running backs. I can't I'm tired of beating the drum for it. Like it's just how it is. Like these guys get
why you can afford
mangled. These guys get mangled. Yeah. Anyway, my biggest loser. We kind of touched on it.
We was about to move to you, Jeff.
I'm on like pick 4. Everybody took mine, which is great. I'll just say overall, just kind of like if you want to say the Denver Broncos, if you want to say Russell Wilson, that situation's a mess. They're in a bad spot as an NFL team to have all this money invested, but also be terrible. Not a lot of hope for the future. So I think coming out of I do not know.
No,
but coming out of week 2, I just look when I look at the schedule, I'm like, oh, the Broncos are just stuck in the middle of nowhere, and that's the worst thing to be in the NFL. We talked about these teams. The Bears are in great shape because they can just keep sucking. Arizona,
Williams, and move on.
Denver's just like, what do we do? Because they don't really have a great base to build on. I don't know. I think they came out of week 2 pretty shitty.
Yeah. So shout out to Ken real quick before I say my biggest loser. Ken, real quick, give me your biggest winner with a quick explanation. And
I don't want you to complain if I take your loser. So you go.
No, bro, shut up. I'm just talking.
He's the host, Ken. Take it.
I'm the host. That's where you lose for being the host. You go last. Who's your biggest winner?
Has anyone said the Bengals yet?
No, for being a winner? Winner or loser?
Loser. Sorry.
No, we haven't said the Bengals.
I want to know your biggest winner because we already talked about biggest winner. So I want to know your biggest winner before I move on to you and let you say your biggest loser.
Jelani's Falcons.
Okay.
Appreciate you, Ken.
Okay. For being 2-0.
Falcons that some of us didn't doubt going into that Green Bay game that Jordan Love might just be a little bit overrated a couple starts into his career in Green Bay. So I think that the Falcons are big winners. That was a game that let's face it, they probably should have lost it. They were down in the 4th and then just figured out a way to come back and win that game. Ballsy call by Arthur Smith on that 4th down. Love to see that because they could have very easily just said, you know what? We're just going to kick it now, but instead they wasted more time off the clock, really put Green Bay in a difficult spot, and then they win the game because of it. I love the fact that their coach was willing to do that. Some people wouldn't have, and now they're sitting here at 2-0 in a division that is very gettable. Like that was kind of the whole offseason was this is not a good division. You could probably win it if you get 9 wins. And now seeing the fact that Tampa's 2-0, we could have the Saints 2-0 tonight. If not, then you've got 2 teams at 1-1. Then like this is going to be a very competitive division. So getting those 2 big wins out of the gate, Falcons got to be a winner.
Real quick winner. Why Kenneth win? I just want to touch on shit. I lost my train of thought. What he said. I'll get back to it.
All right, Ken, who's your biggest loser?
I had a great one.
Bengals. Bengals are losers. You lose back-to-back divisional games to open up the season in a conference where home field is very much going to matter come playoff time. And the Ravens, I mean, I don't think that there was a point in that game where we thought the Bengals were going to win it. Like the Ravens truly, the final score is going to show 27-24. It felt like the Ravens controlled that whole game. They looked terrible last week. Burrow doesn't look good. He does not look 100% right now.
He's hurt. He might not play week 3, and they play the Rams. That's another big thing. Like, they might start 0-3.
Yeah. And that's the issue is actually if you look at their next 2 weeks, because you've got the Rams, and then we just watched the Chargers go in and lose to the Titans. And that's a very well-coached football team. And if you're not at 100%, we could be talking 0-4, 1-3. And we've been talking all offseason, 10 wins to get in, maybe, in the AFC with how good that it is. So I think they have to be losers.
Even that whole conference, like even if you win, you're going to get beat up. You got to work. Like there's no easy wins. Oh, I know a real quick winner I had. Brock Purdy just every week. He's going to be the highest paid last pick in the draft in the history of football.
Shout out to Chris for hating on Brock Purdy and is just coming to bite him in the ass every week.
Brock Purdy's going to be the highest Mr. Irrelevant in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go before we go to our biggest overreaction, which I think might actually be pretty fun, is I'm going to go to my biggest loser. And I'm with everybody else, essentially. I said this on CU Sunday as far as preparing for who could be the biggest loser. It's the Denver Broncos, and it's Russell Wilson. And what sucks is Russell Wilson actually, if you look at the numbers, isn't playing that bad. But like we went into this. No, like he's not playing good.
I hope you meant that as an insult.
No, he's not playing. He's playing bad for Russell Wilson's standard.
Oh, he's playing bad for most
his numbers. You're like, oh, Denver Broncos got a good enough quarterback to at least win a. So like they should have won one of these 2 games, especially when we're talking about. It's not like they play world beaters.
But you just throw the ball 40
yards. And Commanders.
Russell Wilson can't throw the ball anymore.
And you just played the Raiders and Commanders back to back. You're sitting here 0-2. Sean Payton, we heard he never really wanted this job. He wanted the Chargers job. They didn't fire their head coach, so he took this job. They could be moving on from Russell Wilson. That could be the possibility. I think the first 6 to 8 weeks were an evaluation period for how Sean Payton wants to run this team for the next few years.
Evaluating a $300 million quarterback.
Yeah, the problem is I'm evaluating a $300 million quarterback. I can't get off his money, and if
Russell
I decide
Wilson to the Jets immediately,
yeah, but if they decide to bench him, unless you can trade him, and I don't even Russell Wilson to the Jets. If I'm the Jets, I'm not. First off, I'm not. If Aaron Rodgers thinks he's going to come back. Whether it's later this season, which I think is a load of shit, but I'm not even going to talk about that because
you think Aaron Rodgers is disingenuous? What?
Yeah, I think that. I think him leaving the possibility of coming back this year is the biggest load of shit ever. But I'm gonna let that ride and let him talk his talk on Pat McAfee show. But what I will say is, like, if I take on and I trade for Russell Wilson,
did he say? Wait a minute, reset. I heard that he said that. Did he actually do it on McAfee show?
Yes, I was watching it live.
Fuck those two. I cannot deal with this.
Like I watched.
We really think Aaron Rodgers is going to try to come back to get the Jets to 5 wins?
All Aaron Rodgers said was basically it wasn't what he said exactly.
Let me guess.
He worded it.
He said something really vague, and he mumbled it in his weird Wisconsin, California Southern accent.
He left it vague.
He said something like, "I know my body. I got."
He left it vague for AJ Hawk to follow up and say, "Do you mean you're trying to tell me that you could come back this season?" And he's like, "Just leave all your doubts." Tell me
ashamed that
I'm
ashamed that AJ Hawk went to Ohio State sometime. One of my favorite players ever. That he plays along with that. Just at what moment is AJ going to go, stop? This is stupid. Like, when is AJ going to speak up and be like,
when you're media, you can't ruin relationships. So before we close out, because we could probably go
biggest
on a
loser. Everybody that listened to the Pat McAfee show with Aaron Rodgers.
Any Jets fan who had hope that things.
My goodness.
So I do want to talk about our biggest overreaction. We've already been on here for quite a while, and I love it. But I'm not starting. I'll go last because I don't even know what my biggest overreaction is. I'll probably feed off of. I know what it is, but what I say is going to be like, oh, of course Mo would say that crap. Anyway, we'll start with Chris, and we'll bring it back around. Chris, your biggest overreaction from week 2.
Trevor Lawrence ain't it.
What does that mean? Like, what is that? That's a vague statement, Aaron.
Listen. We talk about a lot of quarterbacks that get passes, right? Justin Herbert gets a pass. There's no other quarterback that gets a pass of Trevor Lawrence.
You're gonna get a pass in Jacksonville, though. I will say I do understand that
this
point.
He's because he was the number 1 high school recruit. He was the number 1 pick coming out of Clemson. He's a national champion. This guy,
he won a playoff game.
He's been mid for his whole career.
He won a playoff game last year. Like, I mean, it's not like you won a
playoff game.
You turned around. You were the leader.
Daniel Jones is mid to you, right? He won a playoff game. What does that mean?
But it's not.
And you're good, and you're supposed to be. No, get out of here.
He's in year 3. Like, he's entering his third year. He has a playoff win under his belt.
Don't do that with Justin Herbert. No, we can't do that. No. We're not doing that. He passes. This man gets pass after pass after pass. He has the team. He has a Super Bowl winning head coach. Stop it with the excuses. 9 points against the Chiefs. Bad defense. Come on now. Sorry. The heat is too high. Oh, people are passing now. 9 points. Get out of here.
Yeah, that is hard to get back. 9 points.
It is. I get where you're coming from that.
All the weapons. Christian Kirk, $72 million. Evan Ingram, they paid all these weapons. A first round running back and all that. 9 points.
I mean, you know what? That has more. Cheating bastard cost me a playoff win. I'm with Chris.
Garbage his whole rookie year. He was solid his second year, and then he's off to a crappy start. He gets a pass, but he's Trevor Lawrence. So
if you hit him, you might get thrown out of a game and it costs you a college football playoff championship. It's just things that happen.
But Trevor Lawrence gets the pass and all that.
I'm on board. I'm back on board.
All right. Well, Ken, what's your biggest overreaction? Since Chris is just filled with pure hate.
It's hot out. It's hot. You can't throw for a touchdown because it's hot out. Get out of here.
I like everything Chris said today.
Sorry, man. He pisses me off because he gets. Sorry, John. I know you're supposed to go, but it just.
It's Ken's.
It's actually Ken.
Media pat. Even that. He didn't even mention him. The quarterback had 9. He was 21.
Thad couldn't speak. He was so upset. To be fair, he
21.
He said
we don't give any other quarterback.
If you'd have got here on time, Thad explained himself.
Oh, okay. Because
he did. He gave us the setting of how bad the game was. Like, he said it because he was there. He gave us the perfect setting on how disappointed he was in that game, and Trevor Lawrence and everybody.
He did call him trash.
Yeah, he did. He said he played trash.
He's the Basuda player of the week.
No,
sorry. Straight
the NFC North's the worst division in football, and I don't think that it's particularly close.
Is that not insane to think when, like, the two divisions that we thought would be absolutely bad aren't absolutely bad?
Outside of the fact that the division through 2 weeks is 2-6, which is the worst in the league, only they're tied with the AFC West. But I mean, when you've got Kansas City, like, just throw that out. Like, you've got the Super Bowl champs in your division, so you automatically get a leg up on them for that. Lions defense just lost CJ Gardner-Johnson, who was probably, would we call him best defensive player, if not top 2 with Hutchinson. Bears, if the Arizona Cardinals didn't exist, they'd be the worst team in football. Minnesota, they have a horrendous defense, and all of their offense eats popcorn for the game and can't hang on to the football.
Minnesota quit. Quit.
Green Bay, you have an unproven quarterback that everyone is acting like he's heading to Canton already, yet they still find themselves at 1-1. So I just don't think that – I think that the winner of this division isn't winning a playoff game. I don't think that it'll be relatively close with whoever they play either, because none of them can stop a nosebleed. And
do you think
like, Detroit's the best team in the division by default. And even at the start of the year, when you looked at division odds and everything else, it was like, well, Detroit should win this division. But yet we were trying to talk ourselves into the Bears and the Packers and the Vikings because we weren't particularly sold on Detroit. So I even look at Jelani's division and I'm like, man, at least we have some teams in there that are like really well coached and they've got some good defenses in there. And like,
that's fair. Carolina's dog meat. Sorry, Carolina's dog meat.
Carolina, whatever. We'll talk about the other three. At the very least, we feel like they could potentially be coached to a playoff win. And I don't think that you look at this division and say, oh, well, Dan Campbell's this to a playoff game, or Kevin O'Connell, or Matt LaFleur with Jordan Love. Like, I just don't think that.
What is Minnesota doing? Like, can we ask, like, what's their mission in life? They clearly don't want to, like,
I don't think
there's no chance that they want to go to the Super Bowl. Jefferson looks like he could care less whether he played or not. Cousins is just out there compiling stats. Like, the defenses, they look so comfortable, and they're just like, I think we're just going to – I can't figure out what they're trying to do in Minnesota.
The issue is they just went and won a ton of games last year, but then they're like, okay, this offseason, what should we do? Well, we should probably go and fix the defense. Okay, well, we didn't do that. Okay, well, maybe we'll bring Dalvin back. Nope, we let him walk. Okay, well, now we don't have Thielen because we drafted a guy. Okay, so we're just going to be worse than last year.
Yeah, we're just going to be a little worse.
And think that we are going to win all of our one-possession games again, and it's just not going to happen. So, I mean, it's supposed to be an overreaction, but I can't name another division that's this bad.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily. I can't necessarily.
And it's not fun, and it's bad for the viewers. It is terrible to watch all these teams. Like the Bears, it is painful to watch the Bears that a team could be that bad, and there's only 32 of them, and that one of them could be that bad.
And they're not even
organized. At least you watch the Cardinals, who are expected to be the best or the worst team in football, and at least put dog fights back to back. Like, at least they're in a dog fight of games, and I don't care. But like, at least they look competitive. They suck, and we know they're probably tanking for Caleb Williams, but they're competitive at the very least.
I just think that it's so embarrassing for the NFL that we're going to have a team the caliber of like Cleveland or Cincinnati that's not going to make the playoffs, but we're going to have a division winner coming out of the NFC North. I think it's disgusting.
And that's been that way the past couple of years, especially coming out of the NFC. I mean, think about it. We had a team who didn't have a win. We've had multiple years in the NFC where a team without a winning record won their division and was able to go to the playoffs. And we're like, God, there's this team. It's like the Eastern Conference and Western Conference in the NBA. So, Jelani, what's your biggest overreaction?
I don't even know if it's an overreaction, but Ken did just bring up the Detroit Lions. Now, this isn't mine, but the Detroit Lions I should have said they were one of the bigger losers too, because of the whole blue ski mask thing. They thought they was big shit because they beat Kansas City without their top players. That should have been my biggest loser, because that was some loser shit to do. And then now, so you got a bunch of injuries. My team, hopefully, we can go up there and take care of business, but they should be right back to bring them back to earth, basically. But
do you think Hutchinson wears just the appropriate amount of face paint, or is it too much?
I think it's a little too much. But
do you wish you could hear more from Hutchinson's family while they're watching him play?
He's borderline blackface right now.
Literally, like it covers the bottom half of his face.
Oh yeah. There's definitely some photos in the old family archives of some similar face paint.
Is he a member of SEAL Team 6, or is he playing defensive end for the Detroit Lions? Sometimes
I won't go any further.
You are killing me, bro. But to try to get us back on my biggest overreaction. So we kind of said it already, but I think Cincinnati does miss the playoffs. Cincinnati, I think misses. It might be Cincinnati and Chargers, but I'm gonna definitely go with Cincinnati. I'm thinking they're gonna miss the playoffs. Like we said, Joe Burrow's not hurt. They don't look the same. Their defense isn't that great. I feel like they've lost a step. And then I just looked up their backup quarterback. I still don't know. Is Jake Browning? I don't know who.
He went to Washington.
I thought he went to Washington, but I was like,
he's the one that got blown out in that playoff game.
Yeah,
he took Washington to the playoffs. I will say I know that much about it.
And got smoked by Bama.
15 or 16. Whenever Washington and Michigan State was there back.
It was the same night that Ohio State got smoked by Clemson. It was the worst New Year's Eve playoff games in the history of the world.
Yeah,
not that I remember. I mean,
I think they're kind of cooked. I don't know.
How do you let Jake Browning be your backup quarterback? Like random. How do you let that happen? Why is that your backup quarterback?
He's the only other quarterback on the roster too.
Because your starting quarterback is not threatened. Because
your starting quarterback makes $200.
Yeah.
He's not threatened, so I can put whoever at backup quarterback, and I'll be like,
for the record.
But they got that new rule you can have.
Jake Browning's better than Zach Wilson.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Yeah.
Favorite
part of the show.
Why is the quarterback position the one position that's not allowed to have competition?
That's a great question. I bring it up every year when me and Stuart do the quarterback. I do not understand why teams.
Why are we afraid of competition at the quarterback position? Why do we have to like?
I don't even want to answer because I want to do another 2 hours on that because it drives me nuts.
Someone who's like solid behind him. Like, why is that the case? Like, why don't you want someone that's like gonna?
Yeah, like why wouldn't you have Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson?
You want someone solid? I don't know. That's so stupid. That's the one.
You know why? You know why? Because everybody likes to label that the wide receivers are the divas of the league, and it's the quarterbacks. They don't want to feel threatened. You live and die on your quarterback as a franchise. And any moment they feel threatened, they start acting like
you know who's figured it out. Freaking Minshew, man. That dude has figured out. That dude's going to play for 13 years, and he's going to make about $50 million. He's going to make roughly $50 million playing backup quarterback.
Yeah, the Chad Henneys, the Garner Minshews, the Chase Daniels, like those guys are like, look, I'm okay with being a backup. I'm okay with coming in for a week.
Shout out to Matt Schwab, man. That dude can hit it.
Like
once a year.
Minshew's going to be Chase Daniel if you lived in a van down by the river. Like he's going to play forever. And
yes, but you know what we've lost in the backup quarterback? What we have now is like, okay, who's starting next week? What we've lost, and I grew up with this, is like the guy that could come in like the middle of the third quarter and just the Frank Reichs. Like that's who we don't have anymore. These guys that just step in and like, okay, I got you. They're usually older than the starter. They usually have a little more experience. That's kind of gone. Now it's all like, hey, we got to get Jake Browning ready for next week. As opposed to like back in the 80s, man, there'd be some 40-year-old come off the bench, put his cigarette out and throw like 3 touchdowns. It was fucking awesome, man. 80s backup quarterbacks kicked ass.
Backup quarterbacks suck now.
Steve Berline was a motherfucker, and he was always a backup. Anyway, my overreaction is Mike McDaniel has established himself as the overall best head coach in football.
Oh, I like that. I like it.
He outcoached Belichick up and down last night. He makes all the right moves. He's got the team together. They adjust to each game. I said coming into last night, like, oh, they have to forget what they did week 1 versus Chargers. They did. They played a completely different offense, completely different defense, came out with the win. They're 2-0. He's not flustered. Like when Belichick he's doing the same shit as Belichick did. When Belichick when he'd have the weird interviews and be all quirky, it was like, oh, he's just so smart, blah, blah. McDaniel's same way. Like when he does this funny stuff at halftime interviews.
Yeah, like when he takes off running because the camera was on him. Like
he's just ahead of the game. He's just ahead of the game. He knows what's going on. He's in complete control. He's going to win the Super Bowl in Miami. It's just a done deal.
He's brother, right? Mo loves him because he's a brother.
As much
a brother as Ken is, bro. What are we talking about?
He's logic.
Yeah, he's logic. That's who he is. He is logic.
Oh, God. First of all,
loss.
I don't want to get that. Well, no, as someone that is in the logic genre, like I'm sensitive to it.
Well, because logic is mixed, but he looks like.
Oh, I didn't.
Yes,
that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
he had a great.
His dad's black.
He had a great documentary on that. That was actually
his dad is black. The only difference between Mike McDaniel and Logic is Mike McDaniel doesn't spend his time trying to convince us how mixed he is.
Wait a minute. I don't know anything about what you're talking about here. I know logic. What are we talking about Mike McDaniel? I don't know anything about
Mike McDaniel's mixed.
Black.
That explains everything.
What does that mean? What does that even mean?
No, when I thought, I was like, this is the coolest motherfucker on the planet. I was like, I thought he was the coolest white guy on the planet. But he's just
not thinking his dad is black. Like Mike McDaniel's as mixed as I am, but as white as you and Ken as far as skin tone.
I'm so happy.
But he's
mixed.
mixed.
As far as skin tone, Ken.
As far as skin tone, like he's white, but like he's mixed. His dad is black.
Ken was white.
Oh yeah, none of us knew.
No, so, man, that's my man. I'm like, when I thought I couldn't like him better.
Jeff was supposed to be mixed. That's where it comes in. That's where Jeff was supposed to be mixed. If Jeff tells us his dad was black, I wouldn't be surprised at this point.
No, my dad, no.
White definitely seasons his chicken.
Def definitely seasons his chicken. No wonder why we get along so well.
That's funny. I got a friend of mine, and that's what he always says when he's going down the line. He's like, he's naming everybody. He's like, "Wow, you got black tendencies."
Yeah, you got.
That's what he has. But I don't try. I promise. It's not.
If you told me somebody down the line, "Hey, I got a black family member," okay, I'd be like, "Yeah, it makes a lot of sense." So I want to go over my biggest overreaction. This is going to be
biggest overreactions. I'm stunned. I didn't know this.
Yeah, Michael Nix. He was considered hired as a minority head coach.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I didn't know anything about this.
The Rooney
you
rule.
guys fucking with me?
Yeah.
He was the Rooney rule.
Yeah, he fit the Rooney rule.
Well, good for him.
He fit the Rooney rule when he got hired. So
they got a loophole.
Yeah.
Always find a loophole.
They found the loophole. Hey, let's take the whitest looking guy as mixed.
Yeah. You're like, hey, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
The Dolphins.
That's great. That's great shit.
Before we close out, I want to go over my biggest overreaction. I kind of have two, so I'm going to just say one that's personal. CJ Stroud could retire tomorrow, and he's the greatest Ohio State quarterback to ever step on the NFL field. Just want to throw that out there. No. CJ Stroud has listen.
That's NFL. He means in the NFL.
In the NFL. In the NFL. Like
in the NFL.
Yeah, CJ Stroud's dead to Ohio State fans.
I'm never gonna play. He could say I'm never gonna play NFL football again, and we all would be like, Stroud was the best Ohio State quarterback to ever step foot on the field in the NFL. That's just a personal overreaction. And then I want to say my biggest overreaction.
To be fair, Craig Krenzel actually won a game in the NFL, so he hasn't caught Craig Krenzel yet.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. He did win with the Bears, right?
Funny story. Craig Krenzel is actually black.
Whatever. Anyway. And I want to say my biggest overreaction is kind of we came into the season knowing that like, hey, we're gonna have some top quarterbacks not make the playoffs. But the fact that we're sitting here, and this kind of goes to Jelani's point, like we might be walking into a playoffs in Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert. More so the surprise would be Joe Burrow does not make the playoffs. But I think there's a possibility like there's 2 top 5 to 7 quarterbacks that aren't in the playoffs, which is not what we thought we'd see in the AFC. We were more like Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, like some high caliber guys aren't going to make the playoffs, but we didn't think like we might walk into the playoffs this year and 2 top 5 to 7 guys widely regarded are not going to make the playoffs. And you're even simply, I think Josh Allen could find himself lumped into that conversation as well. We might walk
no
into
chance.
the playoffs. No Josh Allen, no
now
Joe
with
Burrow.
the Jets out. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, Allen's in.
I hate Josh Allen. So anyway, that's like a personal agenda. But it's just a simple.
Josh Allen was black.
No, that dude rides a John Deere across his.
Whoa, hey!
that dude rides a John Deere across his 23 acres.
Kelsey in him. I think he wants to be Kelsey.
But I just want to say, like, I think this year we're going to see 2 top 5-ish quarterbacks not make the playoffs, and I think we're going to be sitting here, and it could be Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert that we have, and you're going to walk around, and I think the conversation around Joe Burrow doesn't matter as much. He's been to a Super Bowl and 2 AFC championships back to back. So we'll give Joe Burrow the pass, but I would love to hear what the pass would be for Justin Herbert when they told us their offense is going to be more potent because they got Kellen Moore, which any Cowboys fan will tell you that was stupid because we're blaming Kellen Moore for how stale our offense was prior. And now you see it with Mike McCarthy. He's like, look, we're just going to play winning football. And so now Justin Herbert I said he would regress for the simple fact you got Kellen Moore, offensive coordinator. But I would love to hear, I would just love to hear the excuses for Justin Herbert after this year if he doesn't make the playoffs, because you're talking about a guy who was taken in the first round, don't really care, but he's been deemed like the Messiah. He's this good. He's this great. And you're talking about 3 of his 4 years he hasn't made the playoffs. And 1 year when he did make the playoffs, the opposing quarterback throws 4 touchdowns and they're up by like 3 scores and he can't close out a game. Like, what's the conversation about Justin Herbert this year if they don't make the playoffs?
It'll be nothing. He plays for the Chargers. Nobody cares. Phillip Rivers did it for 20 years. Nobody cares.
Yeah, which is it's just
it's literally nobody cares. It'll be the same. He's
Messiah, but we don't care that you don't make the playoffs because
he's going to be a 500 quarterback for 15 years and with the Chargers make all kinds of money. Nobody cares. I promise you. Ain't nobody cares about Phillip Rivers.
I mean, that's really
I'm just telling you.
So, like, you go back and you be like, man, Phillip Rivers put up crazy numbers, and then you look back and your next thought is, who gives a shit? Like, who cares?
Well, you know why no one cares about Rivers? Because you look at all the other QBs that retire, and we talk all the time about like the Mannings and Breeze, and like no one cares about Phillip Rivers unless you're pointing out how many kids he has.
I was just about to, and I'm glad you said that. We're more focused on how many kids he has.
He never won a Super Bowl, but he had like 9 kids, so good for him.
Like, we're not even talking about Phillip Rivers and his stats. We're like, hey, we don't pull out like
what
Phillip
scares
Rivers.
me is that one of them might become a quarterback, and we'll have to deal with another Phillip Rivers.
Oh, that's gross.
We got to deal with the next up and coming. I'm not going to pull out kind of guy. Like, is that in put up great stats?
Tell me about it.
Like that.
Bro.
But well, hey, I do appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening. This was Overreaction Monday. This was as fun as it possibly could be. I think week 2 was pretty exciting. And so to bring the crew on that we had to cover Overreaction Monday, we gave our biggest overreactions. I'm Mo. That's Jeff. That's Jelani. That's Chris, who finishes another episode laughing.
I'm sorry, Mike McDaniel. I apologize.
Yeah. Shout out to my light-skinned brethren, Mike McDaniel.
We learned a lot today as a family.
Yeah, shout out to my light-skinned brethren, Mike McDaniel, who the best.
I know how much I hate being called white. I am white.
Light-skinned brethren, you know, us mixed folks.
He's like the white Oreos they got, the yellow Oreos.
He's the white chocolate. He's white chocolate, the definition. But I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I appreciate everybody for listening. We will catch y'all next week. We'll catch y'all Saturday on See You Sunday, and we will also catch you next Monday on another Overreaction Monday. And on that note, Off the Ball Network, we will catch you.